Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Today, the session's going to be about how to use technology to empower student-led learning in elementary school. I have a very special guest with me, Nancy Penchev.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's an instructional technology coach from Florida, and she'll be sharing some of her tips and examples and secrets on how she's been using student-led learning with technology in her classroom. And then another thing is today's session is sponsored by Unruly Studios. We're the founder of Unruly Splats. So we combine block-based coding with active play for middle school and elementary school students. So students would go into our app, they'd code the game they want to play, and then they'd play that collaborative game with their whole classmates. Now going into some more introductions. Nancy, do you want to give a little introduction about yourself too?
Sure. Hello, everyone, from very sunny and hot Florida, where our after-school carpool is going on. So if you hear some things in the background, it'll be over soon. This is my 25th year of teaching. I am the Instructional Technology Coordinator and the STEM Design Teacher for the lower school at Sheck Halil Community Day School here in North Miami Beach. I teach officially grades 3 through 5, but I miss my little ones too because I'm used to teaching all of them. So at some point, all the way down to pre-K 4 through second grade will come in at times too, so that I can play with them and they get to have some fun with all of the wonderful things we have in my room.
Awesome. And then my name's Marissa. I work at Unruly Studios as the growth marketing specialist, and I have a pleasure of always working with some amazing Unruly educators, highlighting them, as well as helping them along their Splats journey. So happy to have Nancy here joining me today. But we also want to learn a little bit more about you all. It looks like you're already introducing yourselves in the chat, but I want to start off with a do now. So in the chat, tell us where you're from, your role, and your favorite back to school icebreaker as well. And then take a look at this. Nancy, do you have a favorite back to school
So
icebreaker?
I always have the kids tell me what they already know about the topics we're going to learn this year. One year I had moved into the library and I'm like, okay, dream up your dream media center. And so I had chocolate fountains and waterfalls requested, of course. So that's one of my favorite things is the kids get to redesign the room or tell me what they already know so that when I start to plan, I have their notes on what they already have figured out and what they really want to learn. They tell me that part too, and some fun activities they think we can do. So elephant toothpaste is a big request every year. And this year they also want to try a lot of building things. We do some maker activities and they really enjoy that. So that's one of the things they've requested to do again is some maker activities.
Oh, that's great. That's such a good question. Like, what can I like get ahead this year, and what do I need to focus more on? That's really smart.
So with
Um,
like my third grade, we're learning about flowers, we're learning about animals, and we're learning about force and motion. So I gave them those 3 topics. I'm like, tell me what you already know, what you want to learn, and what's something fun that we might could do with that. So it just gives them that time to be creative and to tell me what they know. So I don't have to cover everything if they already know it.
Nice. Yeah, I saw some in the chat, find someone who, which that's always a really great game of like finding immediate connections and bonds with students.
And the
Talking about your favorite summer activity. It's a good one.
They have one for a time capsule, and then they look at it again at the end of the year to see how they grew. I love that idea too.
Oh, that's the I was like trying to read that one. That's so cute. I love that too. I always go for like the rosebud thorn type of thing. Maybe you could do for your summer, or two truths and a lie is always really fun
Mhm.
with the younger students because sometimes they're not the best at lying, which is great. Um, but
They
awesome. I'm
giggle
also
too much.
I'm gonna drop a poll question too while we're here, just to kind of I saw a lot of you tell me your roles, but I want to kind of see just a deeper into who we're talking with today. So this is just a quick poll. What is your current role in education? So you can cast your vote. Let's see some tech specialists. Great. Principals, grade level teachers, a lot of others. If you're an other, yeah, definitely let us know in the chat What are the others? I know there's only 5 multiple choice questions, but there's so many different titles in education.
Oh, graduate student. Excellent.
Very professional. Grade 12. Awesome. Substitute. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, everyone. Going back to the session, just a quick overview of what we will review for today. We're going to start off with some social emotional learning data. Then we're going to go into some technology in the classroom that Nancy's using. We'll define what student-led learning is, go over some benefits we've seen with student-led learning, and then we'll go through some tips for infusing student-led learning in tech into your classroom. And then we'll finally end with a Q&A. So definitely put your questions in the question section of this, and we'll go over it at the end. So starting off with principal survey data on social emotional learning. So at Unruly Studios, this is Unruly Studios curated data, and something we do throughout the school year is pick a few hot topics that we're hearing from our educators and then poll principals and school leaders on these topics to learn more. So in the past, we've done some on computer science, we've done it on teacher appreciation, and right now we're working on social emotional learning. And I wanted to share this early data because I do see that student-led learning and SEL really go hand in hand. So I think this will be helpful to look over before we then dive more into the student-led specific examples. So really quickly, just defining what SEL is in case you don't know, social emotional learning, or SEL, is really about developing those life skills for students that they can use throughout their time in education, but also the rest of their lives in their next career or just in their family life, wherever it may be. It's just really those life skills that you'll carry with you throughout time. And in the classroom, usually these 5 core competencies that we look to grow is self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So moving over to some of the data we've collected from principals and school leaders, we've had over about 250 responses, maybe a little more than that. But the first question we're going to look at is, how would you rate your students' social emotional learning skills? So we had 55% say average, 22% say good, 21% say poor, 1% say excellent, and 1% said very poor. I think this is great data. It definitely shows room for improvement, but it shows trending positive results. So that's always great to see. And then now I also wanted to take some time to ask you all in the audience kind of how you would rate your students' current social emotional learning skills. So let me pull up the second poll we have today, and we can see if it compares or not. It might not. It looks like it's trending more average as well. So it aligns as of right now. But yeah, like I said, I think that's a great place to be, especially the start of the school year and all these new resources that we'll talk about today, and just in general knowing there's room to grow, but we could be in a worse state. So I'm going to close this poll. And moving over to our next question we asked, which is, what are currently your biggest challenges for incorporating SEL into your curriculum? So 61% said lack of time in the school day, 39% said implementation and training, 32% said getting teacher buy-in, 23% said lack of resources, 18% said student engagement, 14% said lack of budget. So it's kind of trending too. There's a lot to fill in the school days, and sometimes it's hard to get those extra few activities in or trainings in for a whole nother topic that you might be pushed on to teach. So that's definitely trending here. I wanted to ask too if there's any other challenges you're facing, but also what tools are you using that you think are working really well? If you want to share those in the chat, that's really great too. I've been seeing a lot of monthly themes or really squeezing them into icebreakers. So doing SEL icebreakers in the morning of the day, doing morning check-ins. end of day surveys. Could even be something you do like in the time capsule that was mentioned, things like that. But another big thing I saw for resources was Common Sense and Second Step came up a lot too. So those could be really great resources if you're looking for something to help guide you along the way. But yes, we got morning check-ins, group meetings, cool. Awesome. Yeah, if there's any other challenges you think of or resources, definitely share them for everyone else to see too. So going into some benefits, what benefits have you witnessed from adding SEL into your curriculum? So 72% said positive behaviors in school and at home, 53% said increase in student engagement, 49% said improved collaboration skills, and 6% said increase in academic achievement, which these are all really great benefits. I think like a little like hypothesis or prediction I have is that as we focus more on increasing student-led SEL skills this year and go from maybe average to excellent, we might also see an increase in academic achievement. But that's just my little guess. But if you see any other benefits that you have had, share those too. And then the final piece of data I wanted to share with everyone today is about technology. So the question we asked was, can technology enhance SEL? And 61% of school leadership agreed that using the right technology in the classroom can help enhance those social emotional learning skills. So that's really great to hear too. And we'll definitely talk about some tech tools that Nancy uses that could benefit in this area. So moving over to more about Nancy. Nancy, do you want to tell us about your school, a little bit more about your school and your role?
So I am at Sheck Khalil Community School. We are a private Jewish day school in North Miami Beach. We have 18 months to 18 years, so the babies all the way through our seniors. I've taught all of them from the kindergartners up to the seniors this year. And they'll come by and go, do you remember my name? And I'm like, sometimes. So I teach about 300 right now students a week. And then come January, we'll add more in. So it'll be about 500 a week then. We do a lot of maker projects. So what you can see here, here are some of my kids. The girls here are in a girls program called Girls Building STEAM. It's my passion project that I do after school with my girls. We've had a fashion focus. They pick environmental issues in South Florida or around the world, and they create fashion to bring attention to that. So these girls were working on polar bears because one of them saw a polar bear poster when she went skiing, and it hurt her heart that polar bears were endangered. So her and her group worked on that. The other young man on the right side, I guess. We made cardboard games in third grade with force and motion. He was so excited to see his picture. I showed him the other day that his picture's in here. So he made a little basketball kind of game. You put it on the stick and it tosses the ball over. And then on the bottom, this is a student-led club. In the mornings, I do student-led clubs where kids come in and teach each other stuff. And I'm just there to open the door and take pictures and tweet them out and put them on Instagram. And this is a group of first graders that taught, this particular class was jewelry making. And they taught how to make bracelets. They did necklaces. They made all kinds of things throughout the year. They led a space unit one time where each one taught something about space, and we did a craft to go with it. We had a Minecraft club one morning. It's just whatever the kids want to do. So our school is very much student-led. My classroom is all about what students want to do, and they get very frustrated with me because I won't tell them what to do. They have to figure it out, and they have to kind of, feel their way through what would be the best way to do this. And they'll ask me, and I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And they're like, but I asked you. And I'm like, but I'm asking you. So then we go around the room and ask other people for some ideas as well.
Wow,
So in my classroom, we have all kinds of technology that we use. I have some things that I brought out.
Cool.
This is Dot and Dash from Wonder Workshop. I saw them at ISTE, International Society for Technology and Education, when they first came out. And I was an early backer because I loved them. And I was like, I need that. I don't know how to do it, but I need that. So that's one of the things that we use. We also have, this is also from Wonder Workshop. This is Q. We have the mouse, and we have Bbots. And we use this with the babies all the way up through the fifth graders because they can still figure stuff out. And then, of course, we have our Splats. I have a whole bunch of them in the cabinet right behind me. And the kids love, absolutely love using them. And some days they're like, hey, I finished my work. Can I do Splats? And I say, okay. And they go outside and I'm like, what are they doing? Because there's so much noise happening. I walk out and it's not just those kids. Other classes that are passing by have stopped to play too. So it's really great. We do a lot of broadcasting. My green screen is right here behind me. So we use that quite a bit. We use different apps like Green Screen by Doink. We use Stickbot, Simple Show, Canva. Both of those are products that, and Adobe, are all products that other people pay a lot of money for, but they give them to teachers for free. My students love Canva and beg to do Canva. Some of them finished early in their project today. We're working on the worst presentation ever. And we watched a video called Death by PowerPoint. And so the kids are making all the mistakes as possible that they can. And some of them finished early and said, can I just play in Canva? And I'm like, sure, go for it. And then we also have some virtual reality things that we use. We have a t-shirt called the Virtual Reality. And when you scan it with the app, it shows you inside the human body. We have Orboot, we have Osmo. And one of the best things is not just using technology for technology's sake, but you can see the little sign here. This is the most updated version. This is the 2022 version of what do you want kids to do with technology? And the wrong answer is like, making a video on Flipgrid. That's, what they can do, but what you might want them to do is to solve a problem. So when I was teaching math, my kids would pick a problem, a word problem, and solve it on Flipgrid to explain to me how they came about with their answer, because how they solved it was not always how I solved it. So, using technology in the right way, not just using technology for technology's sake, but using it correctly and using it in thoughtful and creative ways.
Wow,
But
that's really great. You do have such a variety of different tools. That's so great to have in your
we try.
classroom.
And all of these I got through grants. I think my school, none of these here that my school purchased. There's a couple things that my school purchased, but most of them were through writing grants, because if I can get somebody to pay for stuff, then, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask everything. I'm going to apply for every grant. I'm going to apply for every conference, every award, because what are they going to do? Say no? I call it spaghetti. You throw it against the wall and you see what sticks. And so I've been able to get probably about over $20,000 in grants in the last probably 5 years, 5 to 6 years, with Girls Building STEAM and some of the robotics programs, just by asking people at the right time. And I saw one on Twitter last year, and it was this month, and they said, hey, we have $500 if you teach about space. So I made something up real quick and sent it in and got $500. And we have foam rockets that we are creating, and the kids get to shoot them off into space. And the fifth graders teach the first graders how to do it. And it's going to be just an amazing experience for everybody. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Like, you're so right. Technology has such a bigger purpose than just being a tool. So that's a great point. I also love Canva. And I agree. It's way better than just doing, like the same template on Google Slides or like PowerPoint.
Yep.
And I use Canva a lot too.
And Canva has a ton of teacher templates that you can assign to your class. I did an All About Me project where the kids had to create a poster about themselves. And I didn't give them a template, but some of them found the templates in Canva and just started using them. And they were like, hey, I could do that this way, or I might make this one. And I was like, okay, that's really nice. How did you find that? And so they started showing each other where they found the different ones. And some of them are more, more work than others. And so some of them were like, I want to put this on mine, but it doesn't have that. How can I add that? So then they started, adding to the templates that were there. So it becomes even more than I planned. And then they use it in my class, and then they go back to, and I'm teaching them a science themed class. So they go back to social studies, or they go to math, or they go to reading, and they're like, can I use Canva for that? So, that kind of helps them to branch out, and then they teach their other teachers about the different tools. So then their other teachers can start to integrate them as well.
Awesome. Great. Well, you already oh, yes, we're gonna stop and take a quick break in the chat. Were there any other technologies, that Nancy didn't mention? Maybe she mentioned that you also use, feel free to let us know in the chat as well. edtech. It's a good one too.
Yeah. We use Nearpod as well a lot. I love Padlet. Padlet is my favorite tool. People will say, which one's your favorite? I'm like, that's like asking which kid is your favorite to the parents and stuff. You don't do that. But Padlet is my favorite of everything. I've used it for years and years, and our students all have accounts, and we use it all the time for just about everything.
How does that work?
So it's like an online bulletin board pretty much, and you can make it do whatever you want it to do. You can add pictures, you can add videos, you can upload things that you already have, you can add maps. There's so many different things that you can add. Timelines are in there. During COVID, we used it all the time, and students would post like their math homework. Each kid had a row and a column rather. Each kid had a column, and they would post their math homework or Hebrew homework, whatever they were doing, any worksheets they were doing. They would take a picture and post it there so the teacher could see it and grade it. Our PE teacher made a timeline one, and he and his son would do different workouts, and the kids would have to go in and pick out the workout that they were going to do that day if they weren't having a live class. So it was so great. And you can make it, there's a free version. You can make, I think, up to 5 for free. But it is well worth. I pay $100 a year, and our whole, we have it I have it for teachers. I have it for some students, and I use it in everything. So when they make their Canva, they upload the link or they download their picture, however they decide to do it. And they put the link in or they put their picture in, and then everybody gets to see their work and their parents can see their work. And it's just a great way to share, I think.
Yeah, wow. That's really great. There seems to be, I think someone mentioned they haven't heard a lot of these. There's just so many resources out there these days. We need like a guide that like
Yeah.
breaks them all into boxes and we can just like explore them all, or like a table of contents. But that sounds really cool. Moving over a little bit into student-led learning, you've already kind of mentioned a few great examples with your students already, but I wanted to start off with just what is student-led learning to you?
Okay. So for us, student-led learning is where I give them kind of the big idea, the standard that we're learning, what it says in the book, that they're supposed to learn about. And I lead one part of the lesson, and then they take over and go deeper with it. So they go start to discover more things. One of the pictures here is our pumpkin. We did pumpkin stem last year at the beginning of the year. We measured pumpkins. We weighed pumpkins. We estimated seeds. We counted. They had to touch the inside of a pumpkin, and they were just grossed out. And you can see one of the girls closing her eyes there. And they were like, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. We watched a pumpkin, fall apart and disintegrate during the whole school year. Just lots of fun stuff. And we take it with something like, I wanted to introduce them to how measurement is in science as well as math and how different things work together. So that's how we came about the pumpkin unit. On the bottom over here, you can see a bunch of trees, it looks like, and we did an ecosystem unit, and the kids had to create something to show the ecosystem that they researched. I taught a general thing of, here's the water that you'll find in ecosystem. Here's the land that you find. Here's some animals you might find. And after each class, at the end of my lesson in each class, then they had picked a ecosystem that they wanted to learn more about, and they would read or watch videos or go online and do some research to find out about their ecosystem. And then they had to teach other people about it. Some of them made Canva presentations. Some of them made slideshows, Google Slides, and some of them made the entire ecosystem and blew everybody away. And so I had to put them outside so that the little kids, when they walked to PE every day, could see them, and they were just overjoyed. We had polar, we had rainforest. I even had a rainforest that had like a clear plastic cake plate on the top, and it had a diffuser on the bottom so he could make it rain. Wow. I would have never thought of that. I didn't even know you could do that, but he came up with it, and it was beautiful. And then there's also the kids playing with the Splats. They were doing a push-up thing. I didn't even know there was a push-up game. And I walked down, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? And so they start showing me all the things that they had learned. And then at the bottom, you see some of the kids with robots. We did a 5th grade project with passion projects. So again, I said, here are some options. You can learn about space, and I'll give you the space lessons. If you just don't want to be creative, I'll give you the space lessons from our space unit, and you can learn it. If you want to do, we had a Lego EV3 robotics competition. If you want to be with that, okay. If you want to do invention convention, if you just want to pick a passion and explore it, then do that. And so the kids researched everything and then taught other people. So Jonathan is there, and he wanted to do the Q robot. And to be honest, we've had it about 3 years and never turned it on because I didn't know what to do with it. And he was like, I'll figure it out. So he got the iPad out, he got the app open, he started playing with it, and he did all of this stuff and figured out sensors and all of this stuff. And he's like, did you know it could do that? And I went, of course I knew. No, I didn't know any of that. It was just phenomenal. And so they all chose different things, and they all came up with amazing ideas. We had some inventions. One of the kids wanted to make food last longer so that people, it wouldn't rot as fast. And so people in other countries could, multiply their food. And he, as a fifth grader, couldn't quite figure out how to do that, but he did some research on what was already out there. So he told other people what he had learned and gave some suggestions for what they could research next. All kinds of ideas that, again, I never would have came up with. One of my boys is a big time football player. And so he interviewed his coach about what practice things that players should do to become better at being a receiver. And he just so happens to be family friends with Jason Taylor, who used to play for the Miami Dolphins, and he works for the Dolphins now. They're friends. So he interviewed Jason Taylor, and I was like, listen, you bring Jason Taylor to school, I'll make sure you pass fifth grade and every other grade. You'll never fail school. He didn't get to come, but that's okay. So he was able to make videos of how you do these different drills to get better at football. And he used one of the teachers in one of his videos, and it was hilarious. So the kids got to do so many things. And if I had said, we're going to do this, it wouldn't have been half as much learning for them or me. And it's just amazing to see them gather what they love and go forward with it.
Yeah, wow. That's awesome. It's really just giving them that space for exploration, and it kind of sounds like it unlocks like all these crazy shooting stars of like results.
Getting out of their way. That's the biggest thing, is getting out of their way.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of the pressure almost off the teacher too, where it's like you said, it's tool maybe you didn't know how to use or you hadn't used, and then you just like figure it out. So it kind of that overwhelming feeling of learning something new too, kind of like you become like you're learning together, which is really cool.
And when we do the maker projects, I introduced Dollar Tree. My kids didn't know what Dollar Tree was. So I was like, okay, I'm going to Dollar Tree today. Is there anything else you need? And so they would come up and write on my hand. I wrote computer there yesterday, but I remembered it today. But they would come up and write on my hand the things that they needed me to pick up at Dollar Tree that day. If we didn't, we have a ton of cabinets over here for our maker wall. And there would just be sometimes I didn't just have that specific thing that they needed. So I would go to Dollar Tree. I'm like, again? And they're like, yes, we need it again. I'm like, okay. So off I would go and stop at Dollar Tree on the way home from school. And my husband's like, again? And I'm like, yeah, I know. They needed that. I can't help it. So yeah, it's great.
That's so great. We've already covered a few benefits from student-led learning, but I wanted to see what other benefits have you witnessed with student-led learning in your class?
So I have one student whose family, when they go out to the ocean, they clean up every time they're there. If they go out on the boat, they're always looking for balloons to pick up because we're 2 miles from the ocean. A lot of my kids live real close, so they're doing lots of cleanups there. And one of the families just picks up balloons. That's their goal, is to pick up as many balloons as possible. So that's what he wanted to do. And that's what he wanted to express in our water unit. And that's what he wanted to share in our ecosystems unit. And that's what he wanted to do for his passion project. And so it took him through the entire year still talking about the one idea. The girls in my Girls Building STEAM class, they pick a passion. And we started doing fashion because my students who were in 4th grade, who are now in 11th grade, we're going to Design Lab Miami, which is a program down here where they go and they learn how to design clothes and how to make patterns and how to sew, and they do amazing work. And the girls were going to that program. They're like, can we do that here? And I'm like, I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to do that. And they said, well, we can do it. We can do it ourselves. So we started doing that. We applied to get some grant money. We found teachers at our school who do sew and who do create stuff, and they came in to teach us. And then those girls have now become the teacher, and so they come in and they teach, and this is their passion project too now. So they're the leaders, and I'm here to make sure they have snack is the thing. I buy the stuff and I make sure we have snack. And then the youngest kids in the program, there were third graders this year, they said, you know what, we did the fashion, but now we think we want to do cooking. Can we do cooking? And I'm like, well, again, I'm not not the person to teach that. But I looked outside the window at that moment, and it was dismissal time. And I was like, oh, there's more Karen. And she cooks. And so went out and asked her, could you come and help us if we did this? And she said, yeah. And so those girls put together these third grade students put together a whole slideshow about what they could learn about science, and what they could learn about engineering, and what they could learn about reading, and what they could learn about writing and social studies and all kinds of things, what they could learn through math with cooking. And they presented it to our administrators, and they asked them to give them an investment, not to give us money, but to make an investment, because they would make a cookbook and sell it to make the money back.
Oh,
and again, wow. I was sitting here going, that's a really good idea. I wish I thought of that. And they presented the administration, and they got the money. The administrators were totally on board with it, and it was just a beautiful thing. So my little girls who start with me in third grade and now are in high school and getting ready to go to college, and they're so excited, and they keep that passion. They go into we have a application program in our high school for STEM programs, and they apply and they go into the STEM programs, and they're so excited, and they create these inventions. And last year, our students were winning an assistive technology invention. They won, and several things for other programs as well, just because they start to build their own ideas. And I'm just there to go to Dollar Tree and to provide the stuff, and to ask, I don't know, that might not be the best, aluminum foil might not be what you wanted for that. What else could we use? Well, could you get paint? I'm like, yeah, we could get paint. What kind of paint? Well, we want it to glow in the dark. Oh, so we got to get a special paint. And then we just keep talking. They go deeper. There's always going to be engagement, because it's what they want to do. And then the collaboration and teamwork, because Miss Penchev doesn't know the answer, is what they usually will tell each other. Or they'll go, she's not going to tell us. Let's figure it out. So the pictures here, you'll see one of my students here last year in fourth grade, we were studying the human body. And anything gross we could do, they were so excited to do the grossest stuff. So we made the model I found it online. I Googled a model of a stomach or whatever, just to see what we could find. And you draw out like the stomach and intestines on your Ziploc. And then you put crackers, and you put in Sprite or some kind of, lemon lime soda. And then they have to smush it like the digestive system smushes. And then you cut off the corner and it poops out. That was the best class. They had the most fun making that, and reading the books about poop they thought they were getting away with something, but they were learning all about the digestive system and having the best time. So it was great. And at the bottom, that's Canva. They're working on their Canva ecosystem project is what that student was choosing. And some of them pick a tool and they only want to use that tool. And that's okay. They can do that. Or some of them want to try so many different tools, and that's okay. They can do that too. Whatever makes them excited, whatever they want to dive into, then that's what they dive into. So it's great to watch. And I have more work in the beginning of a unit to figure out how I'm teaching it. But during the unit, I have less and less work, and they take on more and more ownership, and they bring so much more than I could ever bring to it.
That's awesome. It's funny too, with Splats, we have a bunch of sounds, and one of the sounds called raspberry, but it's really just a fart sound, and it's also
Oh, I know. I know that it's there.
As you might know. But wow, these are such great stories. Were you still the in charge of snacks once they started their own cookbook entrepreneurship, or did they take over snack duty?
So when they presented to the administrators, I was like, you got to convince them that you should do this. So they said, well, we should make them something. And I'm like, well, I don't have anything in here to cook with yet. That was part of that's on our our wish list on Amazon that they also made the Amazon wish list. And I said, well, what could we make that we didn't have to cook? And they were like, well, we could do fruit salad. So I said, okay, but we have to be safe. So we wore gloves. We put on masks because we still had masks available. So they put on masks. They learned about cutting skills and stuff. They found some of the fruits that had already gone a little bad. So they had to wash them off, and throw away the bad stuff and, cut everything up and serve it out for everybody. So, I wasn't in charge of snack then. They became in charge of snack. And the administrators were so surprised that they were like, oh, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, get that. So basically I just become I spend the money at that point because it's my Amazon account. So I get the grant money, put it in Amazon, spend it, and it's all good. So
Great. And it was a healthy snack too. So look at that.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Nancy. So now we're going to move on over to some of Nancy's top tips for combining student-led learning with technology. So before we dive into Nancy's tips, I wanted to pause for a moment and ask the audience, what tips do you have for combining student-led learning with technology, or do you have any guesses on what tips we'll be reviewing today? Now I want like a big slice of watermelon though. After talking about all this fruit. That's half the battle. Kayla said that.
So Jennifer,
Someone might be
I'll share my Instagram handle and Twitter stuff at the end, and I have two because I have one for Girls Building STEAM and I have one for me, and I'll share those at the end so you guys can follow along. The girls, are always trying to take pictures of each other while they're working so that they can post them and people can see what's happening. So we'll definitely post those at the end so you can see them.
Perfect. Your own Google website. Mine was about musical activity, said Mary. Kinesthetic activity, said Sudi. Creating a list of I wish or I wonder or what if ideas. Cool. Okay, keep those coming in the chat, but we'll start reviewing some of Nancy's top tips. So, tip number 1.
So again, this is Jonathan. He's apparently in a lot of these slides. Jonathan loves Minecraft. And last year, at the beginning of the year, he went to our administration and he said, I would like to have a Minecraft club. And how can I do that? And they said, well, Miss Penchev does morning clubs. Maybe you should talk to her. So he came down and he's like, I want to do a club. And I said, okay, what day is going to work for you? And he said, Wednesdays. And I said, and what are we going to do? He said, Minecraft. And I said, I don't know how to do Minecraft. He said, that's okay, I do. So I said, well, what do we need to do? So we went in and made posters to put up around the school so that people would know about it. And I said, what grades can come to this? He was like, anybody can come. And I said, okay. I'm like, what if, I don't have our Chromebooks. We tried to get our Chromebooks to load it, but we have some issues with our Chromebooks that it wouldn't take the Minecraft EDU edition. So I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do? And he said, well, a lot of kids have their own devices that they play on. Could they bring that? And I said, okay. And I was able to get it loaded onto my teacher computer. So up on the teacher computer, he would start showing, they would start playing there. The kids brought in their own devices and they would play, and I was like, okay, yay. And a couple of years ago, one of she's now in 8th or 9th grade this year. When she was doing her ecosystem, it has to be 8th grade, I guess, because she was doing an ecosystems project. And she said, can I use Minecraft? And I said, you can do whatever you want. And she created a whole desert ecosystem in Minecraft. And she had chickens. And in the video, she's like, this is not really chickens. These are road runners because that's what is in the desert. And she had all the different animals and she had little signs up. So if somebody happened to be touring, and she wasn't there to explain, that they would know what each thing was. She had a temperature gauge that shows what the temperature is. She had a weather channel. She had all different kinds of things. And it was just phenomenal. I had a student who used Minecraft. We were doing array cities in math. And he was like, can I do it on Minecraft? And I said, oh, no. I said, okay, whatever. And then the kids said, "Can I do what Eddie did?" And I said, "What did Eddie did?" And they said, "He used Minecraft." I said, "Go for it." And then I went in and watched, because they were doing them on Flipgrid, on Flip now. And so I went in and watched, and I was just shocked and amazed at how he could, transpose what we were talking about in math, and he did it. He already had it built, so he just used what he'd already made. It was so amazing to see them make that connection. I have kids who last year during their passion project, they wanted to learn more about rap music. And I said, go for it. So they researched it. They researched, how do you write a rap? How do you make a rap video? They took my green screen. They went outside in the parking lot, and I have an app called, I just forgot what it's called, but Shmuel, that's it, Shmuel Rap, SMULE. It used to be free. Now they charge for it. So I paid for 2 months while they used it, and then I canceled it after that. But Shmuel takes what you just talk, just like I'm talking now, and it records it, and it turns it into a rap, and it's amazing. So they and now it also makes a rap video for you. So they're out in the parking lot with my iPad and my iPad stand and the green screen, and then when they brought it back in, they put it into Doink, green screen by Doink, and they put like the ocean background, and then they have this whole rap about how to write raps.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I was just like, that's you know what, that was really good. I look really good in that. It looks like I put a lot of work into this. And it was really great. And there are some kids who love art and they just want to draw everything. So go for it. So many things that they use for their hobbies. Right now we're doing the worst presentation ever. So some of them are using their sports that they play, the dance that they do, Minecraft, whatever games that they play at home, Legos, if they love that, their favorite animals, they're making slideshows, things that they love, and they're turning it into their work. So they have so many talents. My girls who started in Girls Building STEAM with the sewing now come back and teach the sewing. And we have an IB program here in our 10th grade year is when they do their project. We've had so many girls, some that came through my program and some that didn't, who have created amazing clothing as their project. So many things that just, I am shocked and amazed at what they can do. And again, it's just getting out of their way, helping them figure out what they are passionate about, and then moving so that they can start taking on that lead. Whatever they love, if they are deep in, like many of my kids are deep into soccer, and they love Ronaldo and they love Messi. And if I can get them to do math by putting Ronaldo and Messi in my math problems that I'm giving them, then I'm going to do that. If I can, throw in cars into my math problems or my science problems, then I'm going to put in what they love to get them connected and engaged again. So it's, it's using what they love, letting them take that lead so that it's not always me. Because when I have to do all the teaching, I'm exhausted at the end of the day, and I can barely get out to my car and drive home. And I'm like, oh. But when they're doing the work, when I leave here, I got plenty of energy. I'm good to go, because I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I'll walk around. I'm like, do you need me? And they're like, no. I'm like, and I do a thing where I give them a thumbs up. I'm like, and they give it back. If they're good, I'm like, how come nobody wants me to help them? and they're like, we got it. And I'm like, but I wanted to help. And so somebody will give me something to cut out for them. I'm like, thank you. Or they'll say, can you design this for me? Can you make me can you write this word in Canva, make it big and print it out for me? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So, give me something to do. Come on. And it takes away my workload and puts it onto them. And when they're guiding it, then they're more invested in it. And they can, more than any kind of, multiple choice test I can give, they can tell me more about ecosystems at the end of that unit because they dove into it. They wanted to know more because they wanted to have every answer that anybody might ask them at the end of their project. They want to be able to answer it. So it's much better for me than any kind of test that I could give. And then they grade themselves on it too. When they know that they're the ones who are grading themselves, they have a list of the things they need. And they have to tell me, did you meet your mastery on this? Are you approaching mastery? Do you need support? And how can I support you? There's not a trick to any of this. They know what they have to do. They know how they have to do it. And I'm there to go to Dollar Tree and and cut out for them if they need some cutting out. So
That's so awesome. Minecraft is also just so popular. Like, I was
oh
at
yeah,
some conferences this past summer, and I was next to a Minecraft stand, and, like, everyone's obsessed with Minecraft. But those are
and
so great.
they have lesson plans. They have all play,
Yeah.
craft, learn, I believe is their thing. And they have SEL lessons. We were talking about that earlier. They have SEL lessons built into Minecraft. You, I mean, you can't beat that. You're taking what kids love. You're helping them deal with how they feel and learn to work on that. It's just great. Yeah,
That's
Roblox too. I saw that somebody posted Roblox.
yeah,
The kids
Roblox.
who, man, my math class one year, that's all they wanted to do. So I put that in every math problem. And I spelled it road blocks the first time because I didn't know what it was. And they were like, Miss Penchev. And I'm like, I'm trying. And then they made me join so I can go in and play. And so I would know more about it when I wrote those math problems. So
That's
yeah.
great. So moving over to tip number 2, let them do the teaching. Do you wanna talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I had a program called Healthy Bodies, Healthy Minds in Scratch with fifth grade. Um, we had a field trip, and they discovered that some of the students weren't necessarily taking, care of their cleanliness during the field trip, and they were smelling a little right by the end of that. So they were like, maybe we should teach that. And we don't have a health teacher. And so I was like, I'll do it because I'm about to do coding. So they had to pick 3 topics, and they had things to choose from, like sunscreen, because we live in Florida, healthy minds with getting enough sleep or talking about your problems, that it's okay to cry, healthy eating, just all kind of different topics. And they picked 3, they watched a video or they read about it, and then they made a story in Scratch to teach other people about it. Then I have those student-led clubs. Over here on the picture is my after-school robotics class. We took our B-bots over and taught at the community center next door for a special holiday event. And so they taught everybody there who came by how to code the B-bot. And then we also have Global Maker Day. Global Maker Day is October 18th this year. I'm on the planning committee for that. And for every year since it started, I have presented with students usually, and they share what we make in class. The first one I ever did, I saw him out in the hall earlier. He's in 11th grade this year. And he was my first student presenter at Global Maker Day. And he didn't practice with his mom or dad or his grandmother, who was the kindergarten teacher here. His dad's the middle school principal. He wouldn't practice. He was like, I got it. And he got up and he presented it in front of the computer at Global Maker Day and just did such an amazing job. And I saw him. I'm like, hey, I found the pictures from Global Maker Day. And the first thing that you made, I have the pictures on my phone right now. So when I was looking for pictures for here, I found that. And he was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I know. And now he's a grown adult almost. It's crazy. But the kids take over. They start doing and sharing what they love. And Global Maker Day is all over the world. People from all over come together on that day. There's like 8 hours of presentations. It's every 30 minutes a new presenter comes up. If you do maker stuff, you can have your class on there and they can share what they make. You can join live and watch what other people are doing and make along with them. You can watch it again later if you want. It's globalmakerday.com. And then I take kids to ISTE just about every year over the last, 9 years. I've taken students to ISTE to present about girls building STEAM, to present about robotics and what they love. I have Jake, who started when he was in 2nd grade, and he presented on Minecraft coding with code.org with their Minecraft. He would teach a coding class every week, and we had anywhere from 3 kids to 13 or 20 kids come in, and he would walk around and teach them. And now he's in 10th grade this year, and his little sister Sophie was 3 when he first started, and now she goes and she's in 4th grade this year, and she helps out with us too. So
That's
I mean,
great.
letting kids share their loves, that's the most important thing.
That's awesome. Okay, we're running a little short on time, so let's try see if we
Okay.
can get through all your tips,
Yeah.
and leave some time for a question. But tip number 3 is allow for student choice.
So having choice boards for kids, sometimes when you tell them make anything, that's too much, right? But having a choice board for them to look at, that helps them narrow down their options. Knowing what it's okay to do, what is not okay to do, helps them out too. So if you're going to make something that's going to use electricity, I don't have the space for that. I don't have the equipment for that. So that kind of thing, that's helpful to know what you can do and can't do. And then tell the kids to challenge themselves. If they want to use the same thing they've always used, that's great. But it's better to challenge yourself and go outside your box. As a teacher, I'm always trying to think outside of my box. Maker was outside of my box. And I tried it with my girls building STEAM and with my other students. And we started a morning club with it. And then I put it into the classroom. And it's the best thing I have ever done in my class is step back and let the kids make. And it changes your whole mindset of how I teach. And so challenge yourself, make the kids challenge themselves. Don't just, do the easiest thing, come up with something more. This is again, some splats where they were doing the run in place, trying to challenge themselves to get better and better and better every time. So
I also, I love giving them like a little restraint, because sometimes just saying, go off and rule the world, it can be, you don't know where to start, but like giving them maybe some stepping stones and like little graham cracker pieces. Always
usually we'll make I use Padlet a lot for this, but we'll have a Padlet and they'll post their ideas of what they're thinking. And even if they don't choose what they said, if they pick somebody else's idea, that's okay. But helping each other decide is great too.
Yeah. So moving over to tip number 4, encourage student problem solving.
So we have the peer review and a self-checklist so kids can know what they need to do. And this is one of my students here. Last year, we were making instruments in 4th grade for our sound unit, and he needed to cut his tube. And I'm like, well, I have several saws. And the kids go, well, you have a saw? And I'm like, I have 4. And they're like, where? I'm like, they're hidden. You can't find them. So I got the saw out. He used the safety glasses. He used gloves. I stood there and watched him as he, was sawing the tube in half, and he got it done. He brought it back in and got to finish making his projects. So that's, the biggest thing right there is giving them that tool that they're like, oh, I don't know how to do this. We'll figure it out. You can figure it out. And then I have here too, the lanyard questions from Michelle McKay. I did a podcast one time and she shared these and I have them on my lanyard. And so if I'm talking to kids and I can't think of what I want to say to them, I can look at the lanyard question and it gives me some question starters like, what does that make you think about? Or this seems to be a challenge for you. What could you do differently to make it work a little better? What is the challenging part that you're facing? Or I wonder if you could share that idea with this other kid who's also coming up with something like that. And maybe you guys can combine ideas and work, maybe not on the same project, but at least side by side so that, when you sit together and you're sharing your ideas, you can each build your own thing, but, you're sharing ideas. So those questions I think are excellent. This was from an ECE class. And I love them. So I said, can I have your questions? And so she sent them to me. And then I shared them with my ECE team too. And I wear them. I noticed the other day, I must have dropped water on it because it got a little wet. So I was like, oh, I need to change that out. But these are just great questions to help kids, encourage that problem solving for themselves.
And that's such a quick little trick or hack, like put it right on your lanyard so you can always like have them on top of minds as you're teaching. That's really cool. And you printed out a little picture of it too right here, so anyone can use it too. Great. So tip number 5 is getting teacher buy-in.
So when the kids get excited about it, the teachers can't help but follow along. So for the Splats, for example, we were using them. The first time we used them, we had Hanukkah, and they said, can you do a coding activity for Hanukkah? And I'm like, okay, because it was like the next day, and I was like, oh, something fast. Come on, what can I do? And I had done some things with Bebot and Dot and Dash before, but the Splats were new, and I was like, okay, let's see. So we set up 6 Splats, and then I had 2 Hanukkahs, the Hanukkah candles set up. And so the kids would throw, it was Cornhole is the game within the Splats that we use. And they threw the bean bags and tried to light up all the candles of Hanukkah. And as they were doing it, teachers were walking by from the high school and they were like, hey, what are y'all doing? And so they would show them. Our administrators were coming by. They're like, Dr. Wagenberg, that's my the head of the lower school. And they're like, come do it with us. So she came over and tried to do it. The second picture is, again, we had another holiday and they were like, hey, can you do something again? I'm like, sure. So they had to turn the Splat blue. So I changed one of the coding things that's already in there. And it was, I can't remember which one it is, but when the light comes on, you're supposed to touch it. I think it was green light, red light, but I changed it to turn blue. So when it turned blue, they had to step on it. So,
Yeah,
just little
whack-a-mole.
easy
Yeah.
things. Yeah. I make how-to guides and videos to show just how easy it is because I tell them if it's more than 5 steps, I'm probably not going to do it. So I make the how-to guides for my students. I put it in our LMS, and they can go back and watch it whenever, and I share it with the teachers. And then we have Potty PD, and Potty PD is where it was Learning in the Loo is what it started as with Kathy. I can't say her name right. It starts with a K. And I saw her doing it, and I was like, that's really funny. So Potty PD, I make a little Canva poster and I put it in the bathrooms, the teacher bathrooms. And so when the teachers are in there, they see it. And if it's something they're interested in, like I made one about Canva, I made a brain pop, I did one about Splats, and I make a little video that has a QR code so they can scan the QR codes because you always take your phone to the bathroom. So they can scan the code and then watch the video later. And if they want to know more, I tell them teachers who are using them so they can go check in with those teachers or me if they wanted to. And then one of my friends does it as a copier PD because when you're standing there making copies, you're stuck in place, right? You have that captive audience. So she makes a little poster, puts it up at the copy machine, and then people can look at it. And if they want to know more, they come and ask. And so that's really great, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, 'cause starting with new technology can be it is kind of overwhelming as a teacher. Always
Mm-hmm.
starting someone new for anyone is. So seeing it so easily how students do it really
Mm-hmm.
eliminates that pressure.
And I tell them, you don't have to know how to do it. The kids know. The kids know, and they know more than I do. So if you can just tell them to do it and then move and let them do it and watch them and see what happens, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and just connecting it to, like, real world, like,
Mm-hmm.
holidays and also computer science is great.
Yeah.
So our final tip for today is make time for reflection.
So as a teacher, when I do my units, I'm like, when I finish it, I go back even sometimes every day. I go in and I'll make a little note because I put my plans in Google Docs, and I'll make a little note like that did not work. I need to change that. And I teach the same class sometimes 4 times up to 5 times, depending on how many groups of fifth grade we have or how many fourth graders we have. So I'm like, that didn't work that time. Let me change that for the second class. And I'll keep changing sometimes until I get it good. And I'll make a note of that. So for my water unit that we're about to do now, I learned a lot about not waiting to the last minute to do the project, to do it kind of as you're going so the kids aren't overwhelmed at the end. So that always makes my units better when I sit down and think about it. And the kids having that time for reflection too also gives them the time to think about how they could approach the problem next time. We do a flip grid at the end of every unit, and they give me honest feedback. I tell them it's not going to hurt my feelings. A lot of the stuff I didn't create myself. And even if I did think it was a great idea, that's okay. You can tell me if it wasn't so that I can make it better for the next year's class, right? So giving them time to reflect for them and to reflect for me, because they know that what they say makes a difference. They know that I will totally change things if it wasn't good, because I know it wasn't good, but I want to know what they think about it too, because maybe they thought it was okay, but maybe I could do this differently. So that's how I actually changed the water unit that we're about to do, is because they said maybe if we did each step as we finish that class, it might be easier than instead of waiting to the end and then having 3 weeks to put it together. If we did it step by step, that would be helpful. So that's how we're doing it. We'll see how it goes this year. So
That's
having that reflection time for kids, for teachers, is just such a bonus, because it's not just, okay, you're done, walk away. It's you can now use what you've learned here. And the next time you do a project, use what you figured out. Like, don't wait to the last minute. Create a calendar for yourself so you know when things are due. And I try to teach that to the kids too, because as they move to middle school, there's not as much hand holding and there's not as much, don't forget, you got to do this. You just have to remember. So that's something I teach as well. But having them give that feedback to me is invaluable for me to make it better every year, so that I don't have just an okay thing. If it's not good, I'll leave it out. I'll do something different. That's
yeah.
fine. But I got to know.
I think it also really just opens up the fact that you don't have to be perfect the first time, as long as you're learning what you did wrong and then fixing it next time, or finding improvements, or more efficiency to the solution, or whatever it may be. It really just allows for them to know they don't have to be 100%,
Mhm.
and allows them to take that risk and gain that confidence. So that's great. Well, we're right up on time, but we do have a few questions and we have a few extra minutes. So if you're around to stay for question time, please feel free. But if you all have to jump, We understand too. Thanks for joining. And then our Twitters are also linked here. So I know someone was asking for Nancy's, so you can find it right now.
I'm also going to put it in the chat. I'll put my Girls Building Steam. They are on Twitter and also on Instagram.
Great.
I think at Girls Building Steam. I spelled girls wrong, of course. But and I own that. I made a mistake. I didn't reread like I taught my kids last week. I didn't reread before I posted. So, but if you search Girls Building Steam on Instagram and Twitter, you should be able to find it. Or you can, if you follow me, then I can lead you over there too.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll drop your link in the chat too. But the first question I have for you, Nancy, that we got asked was for Nancy. Do you incorporate teaching cybersecurity to elementary level students?
I do. And even when I was teaching kindergarten before this, I still taught cybersecurity. At each level, we talked about not giving our personal information out. And so for every level, when we do that, it gets a little more intense and a little more in their face, you know? And we acted out by the time we got to 5th grade, how that might appear and how somebody might try to get our information. I use Common Sense Media, has an amazing, just tremendous digital citizenship unit. They have lessons, they have games. My kids are going to be doing the games starting week after next. I have to remember. They're going to do 3rd grade are going to be playing the DigStick games for there. There's also Mary Alice Curran has a whole digital citizenship unit and day of celebration. So if you'd like to get in touch with her, I can help you get in touch with her. And she has great stuff. And all over the world, she works with people with digital citizenship. And it's just a beautiful thing that she's been able to create across the world. So I can definitely share that with you guys too, so you can see if you're interested in learning more about that. But yeah, we do it all the way down. It starts with how we hold our computers all the way to what we do and how we don't write down our passwords. But right now at the beginning of the year, if we need to write down our passwords on a sticky note and put it on our computer, okay. But by the a couple of weeks, that should be gone. So everything in between strangers, between creating safe passwords, creating safe usernames, all of that we cover.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. And then another question we have are, what are your thoughts on teaching the children that technology should always serve a purpose? Which I think you covered a little bit.
Most definitely, because it's not just technology for technology's sake. If you're just putting something out there, like I would never start a lesson by saying, oh, you know what I need? I need a poster for my wall. What can I make a poster about? You would never do that. In the same way, you would never start off with, you know what, we should make a Canva today. What can we make a Canva about? You have to start with what you're learning. And sometimes technology is not the best way to do it. You can make paper slides. You don't have to have a computer. I tell my students all the time, if you have lost your computer privileges, you can make the paper slides instead. I always have a paper alternative for everything that we might be doing. Computers are great. Technology is great, but it's also great to put them away and spend time talking to each other. You can, instead of creating a Padlet, you do a sticky note wall. We've done graffiti art where we had, the big butcher block paper that you put on your bulletin board. I put it on the table. We make graffiti art that way. You don't always have to have a computer at your fingertips to do technology. When I first started teaching technology here, I didn't have a computer lab. I did have a computer lab, then they took it away. And so we made computers out of manila folders, and I had printed off a copy of a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse, and we cut it apart and we put it together, and I taught keyboarding with that paper copy of the keyboard. You don't have to have technology to learn anything, but sometimes you can enhance your learning with technology. You don't always have to do it. With some of the robots that I have, like the Bebot, there's no screen for Bebot. There's no screen for mouse. We have Cubetto, we have Kibo. There's some non-screen alternatives for everything. And sometimes those are the best tools to use. I get technology overload. I know the kids get technology overload. So sometimes we just put it away and we listen to a story and we draw the pictures of what we learned. We don't always have to use the tech. So definitely knowing that there's a time and place for everything. I did a email lesson last week, and some of the kids didn't have their computer, so I had them write a letter to the teacher instead of emailing a former teacher. They wrote the letter, and then I delivered it to their mailbox. And the teachers loved both methods. They loved getting that letter, and they loved getting emails too. So, there's always an alternative. There's always something else to do.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. Okay, one more question for this evening, and it's for you, Nancy. So how does technology help us teachers accommodate different learning styles?
So, for accommodations, there are so many different apps that can be added into your Google, if you have Google or Microsoft, whatever you happen to have, that will read for you. Like immersive reader is almost in everything now. And it's so great to have that. We do Nearpod. There's an immersive reader in there. It can read it to them. I was going in and recording every word on the screen so that my kids who had some reading issues and they couldn't spend the time reading, they would trip over the words and get frustrated. I was recording everything, but now I don't have to do that. I can hit the immersive reader and it reads it to them. There are so many things that are built in now to help with that. There are some kids who do not want to use the computer. And when we do a Canvas, sometimes I require them to do the Canvas just to learn it. So for the All About Me, they had to do it, but they could have drawn everything on paper, held the paper up to their Chromebook and took a picture of that and put that in there. So we're still doing both things, but they're getting to use what's best for them. So you have to step back. Some of my kids are huge football players. They travel all over the country to play football and go to different tournaments and stuff. And so some of them just want to play. So if I have kids who just need to get up and move around, then I'm going to do something like the Splats to get them up and moving around, or give them, different points of the room where they can go and read the answer, and they can go around with a QR code reader and read that way if they want to. They can go find an actual book and find the answer. There's so many ways that you can get to the same point, and just opening it up to the kids and having them tell you what's the best way that you would like to do this, and giving them multiple ways so they can try it out. Maybe they think that they want to use the QR code and they get to do it a few times, and they're like, you know what? If I just had that paper copy, that would be so much simpler. So provide the paper copy. That's fine. Whatever works best. You can find an alternative for everything. So, keep looking. You'll find it. And the internet is so full of amazing ideas from people. I tell people I'm the only one of my kind here at my school. I have a team of second grade teachers right on this hall that I go down and ask questions to all the time, but I'm the only one who does what I do. So it's hard for me to bounce ideas off of people because they're like, oh, well, that sounds interesting, but they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I go to Twitter and I find people who do what I do, and I share it with them. And they're like, oh, that would be good. Or maybe you should try this way instead. And I get to build that community. So it's wonderful to be able to have that people to talk to. And so definitely look at Twitter for those ideas too, because I know they're always sharing some amazing accommodations for students. I have a great group of people on there who I follow who talk about their different roles and how they help students, and some things I would never have considered, and just the simplest things too that you don't think of, and you're like, oh, that would have been a really good idea if I had tried that. So, and using your reflection tool and writing it down for next year so you remember when it comes up for that again.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you use your resources too. Twitter's a great spot. Well, I wanted to just thank everyone for joining us today. Like I said, we're sponsored by Unruly Studios today, so I just dropped a link in the chat if you're interested in learning more. And a huge thank you for edWeb for hosting, and also for Nancy for just being a super star and sharing all her great tips. And it was
happy to share. Always happy to share.
And thanks everyone for hanging around a little later. I'm so happy. But enjoy your evenings.